The bridge of the starship Vigilant Mercy hummed with the controlled chaos of a frontier patrol vessel. Commander Mara Reyes stood 5 feet 7 inches tall at the center of it all, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she studied the tactical display floating before her. The year was 32 and 25 3 centuries after humanity's first interstellar war, and the frontier of the Orion Arm remained as dangerous as ever. The bridge crew represented a cross-section of the United Sector's diversity. Lieutenant Still, the arachnoid sensor chief, operated her console with 8 delicate appendages, while her compound eyes tracked multiple data streams simultaneously. At the engineering station, Chief Petty Officer Grix's crystalline siliconoid form pulsed with soft blue light as he monitored the ship's systems. But it was the towering figure beside Mara's command chair that drew the most attention. Executive Officer Craw stood nearly 8 feet tall, his Cathaxian frame built for killing. Rippling muscles moved beneath obsidian fur, and retractable claws tapped an impatient rhythm against his crossed arms. His yellow eyes, each the size of a human fist, tracked every movement on the bridge with predatory intensity. The Cathaxians had been engineered millennia ago as apex predators designed for solo warfare against entire enemy battalions. Evolution had honed them into living weapons of terrifying efficiency. "Ah, sensor sweep complete, Commander." Essatil reported, her voice carrying the distinctive harmonic overtones of her species. "No contacts within 50,000 kilometers. The shipping lane appears clear." Mara nodded, suppressing a yawn. They had been on patrol for 6 weeks, hunting pirates and raiders along the contested border with Zithion space. The work was necessary, but monotonous, a far cry from the tactical challenges she had trained for at the academy. She caught Craw's disapproving glare and straightened her shoulders. "Something troubling you, XO?" she asked. Craw's lips pulled back to reveal rows of serrated teeth. 3 centuries of interstellar warfare, and they put a human in command of an apex predator. He rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "The irony is not lost on me, Commander." The bridge fell silent. Even the ever-present hum of the ship's systems seemed to quiet as the crew held their collective breath. Mara had dealt with Craw's insubordination before, but never so publicly. She turned to face him directly, her brown eyes meeting his yellow gaze without flinching. "The United Sector promotes based on competence, not species," she said evenly. "If you have concerns about my command decisions, you're welcome to file a formal complaint." "I prefer direct communication," Craw replied, his massive frame shifting slightly. It was a subtle movement, but every crew member recognized it as a predator's preparation for violence. Humans excel at talking. Cathaxians excel at winning wars. Before Mara could respond, Estil's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, I'm detecting a hyperspace translation event. Unknown vessel bearing 27 Mark V." The tactical display updated, showing a ship materializing from the swirling energies of hyperspace. Mara stepped closer to examine the readings, aware of Craw moving to flank her position. "Configuration unknown," Still continued. "Hull breaches detected. Heavy damage to port side. She's venting atmosphere." "Life signs?" Mara asked. "Positive. Multiple species readings. Estimate 200 souls aboard." The damaged vessel hung in space like a dying whale, its hull scarred by energy weapons and punctured by kinetic rounds. Running lights flickered sporadically, and debris trailed behind it in a glittering cloud. It was clearly a civilian transport, probably a refugee ship fleeing some frontier conflict. Commander Estil's voice carried new urgency. 3 additional contacts translating from hyperspace. Zithion raider signatures." The tactical display exploded with new icons as the predators arrived. 3 sleek warships materialized in a precise formation, their hulls gleaming with the chitinous armor that marked Zithion construction. They moved with deadly grace, closing on the crippled transport, like sharks sensing blood. "Sir," called Ensign Ralt from the communication station. "The transport is broadcasting a general distress call. They're requesting immediate assistance." Mara studied the tactical situation, her mind racing through possibilities. The Zithian raiders were already launching boarding pods toward the transport. In minutes, those refugees would be dead or worse. But her orders were explicit. Maintain patrol route, do not deviate without authorization from Sector Command. Distance to Sector Command, she asked. 4 hours by fastest courier, Ralt replied. 4 hours. The refugees didn't have 4 minutes. Commander. Kraw's voice carried a hint of anticipation. The Zithians are known for taking slaves. If we act quickly, we can intercept them before they complete their harvest. Mara glanced at her XO, surprised by his concern for non-Cathaxian life. Then she noticed the way his claws had extended the barely contained energy in his coiled muscles. Kraw wasn't thinking about rescue. He was thinking about the hunt. Our orders are to maintain patrol perimeter, she said as much to herself as to the crew. Sector Command expects us to hold position pending reinforcement. Orders that condemn innocents to slavery and death, Kraw growled. Even humans can see the dishonor in that. The accusation stung, because it carried truth. Mara had joined the United Sector Navy to protect people, not to hide behind regulations, while civilians died. She looked at the tactical display again, watching the Zithian boarding pods closing on their target. Helm set course for the transport, maximum velocity. The order sent a ripple of activity across the bridge. Chief Grix's crystalline form flared brighter as he fed power to the engines. Still's appendages danced across her sensors, providing constant updates on the developing situation. But it was Kraw's reaction that surprised Mara most. Instead of satisfaction, she saw something like approval in his yellow eyes. All hands, this is the captain, Mara announced over the ship's intercom. We are responding to a distress call from a civilian transport under attack by Zithian raiders. All departments prepare for combat operations. The Vigilant Mercy surged forward, her engines carving a brilliant line across the void. The ship was a Sentinel-class cruiser, designed for extended patrol operations, with a mixed-species crew. Her weapons were formidable but not overwhelming. Her real strength lay in her versatility and the expertise of her people. Contact in 30 seconds, Still reported. The Zithians have detected our approach. They're adjusting formation. On the tactical display, the 3 raider ships were spreading out, presenting multiple threat vectors. The lead vessel continued its assault on the transport, while the other 2 moved to intercept the Vigilant Mercy. It was a classic pirate tactic: grab what you can, while delaying pursuit. Weapon status, Mara asked. All batteries ready. Torpedo tubes loaded with standard yield warheads, replied Lieutenant Torres from the weapon station. Mara studied the enemy formation, her tactical training taking over. The Zithians were individually superior fighters, their ships faster and more heavily armed than her cruiser. But they were acting independently, each captain pursuing his own glory, rather than coordinating their attack. It was a weakness she could exploit. Kraw, she said, turning to her XO, what's your assessment? The Cathaxian's eyes never left the tactical display. The lead ship is vulnerable. While it focuses on the transport, we could punch through its escort screen and disable it with a concentrated assault. And then we kill everything that moves, Kraw said simply. Zithian raiders expect no quarter and deserve none. Mara nodded slowly. It was exactly the response she had expected from an apex predator. Direct, brutal, and tactically sound within its limitations. But she could see opportunities that Kraw's hunting instincts missed. Negative, she said. We're going to do this smart. Still, I need a detailed scan of that transport. How many boarding pods have made contact? 3 pods, Commander. They've breached the main cargo bay and are fighting their way toward the passenger compartments. Time estimate until they complete their objective. At current rate of advance, perhaps 10 minutes. Mara turned to Lieutenant Torres. Launch 2 flights of combat drones. Program them for harassment pattern Delta 7. Commander, Kraw interrupted, his voice carrying a warning growl. You're dispersing our striking power. Those drones should support our main assault. The drones will distract the escort vessels while we deal with the lead ship, Mara explained. But we're not going to charge in and slug it out. We're going to be surgical. The tactical display updated as 12 combat drones launched from the Vigilant Mercy's forward bays. Each drone was roughly the size of a fighter craft, but packed with advanced AI and a full weapons loadout. They spread out in a complex pattern, forcing the Zethian escorts to split their attention. Now launching boarding shuttles, Mara announced. Assault teams Alpha and Beta will board the transport and neutralize the Zethian raiders. Gamma team will secure the lead ship once we disable it. Kraw's muscles tensed visibly. You're sending boarding parties against Thean warriors, they'll be slaughtered. Not if we coordinate properly, Mara replied. The boarding teams will be supported by precision fire from our main batteries. We'll create windows of opportunity for them to exploit. The first exchange of fire lit up space between the two formations. The Zethian escorts engaged the combat drones, while their energy weapons reached out toward the Vigilant Mercy. Chief Grix's voice crackled over the intercom as he rerouted power to the defensive screens. Shields at 80%. Minor fluctuations in the port array. Return fire, Mara ordered. Target the escort vessel's weapon systems. I want them suppressed, not destroyed. Twin beams of coherent energy lanced out from the cruiser's main batteries, striking one of the Zethian ships with surgical precision. The Raiders' forward weapons array exploded in a shower of sparks and debris, eliminating its long-range threat capability. Good shooting, Mara called out. Still, what's the status on our boarding shuttles? Alpha and Beta teams are approaching the transport. Gamma team is standing by for deployment. On the tactical display, Mara could see the small craft threading their way through the battle. The transport's hull loomed before them, scarred and pitted from the ongoing assault. Somewhere inside that metal shell, 200 civilians were fighting for their lives. Commander, Kraw said, his voice strained with barely controlled aggression. Let me lead Gamma team. I can clear that Zethian ship in minutes. Mara considered the request. Kraw was undoubtedly capable of solo combat against an entire ship's crew. Cathaxians had done exactly that countless times throughout history. But sending him alone would defeat the purpose of coordinated tactics. Negative. You'll remain on the bridge and coordinate the assault teams. This isn't about individual glory XO. It's about proving that mixed species tactics work. Kraw's claws extended fully, scoring deep gouges in the deck plating. You're wasting my capabilities, Commander. Send me where I can do the most damage. I'm using your capabilities exactly where they'll do the most good, Mara replied firmly. Trust the plan. The next few minutes passed in a blur of tactical updates and weapons fire. Alpha team successfully breached the transport's hull and began their assault on the Zethian borders. Beta team provided covering fire while evacuating civilian casualties to secure areas. The combat drones continued their harassment of the escort vessels, preventing them from interfering with the rescue operation. But it was the lead ship that concerned Mara most. The massive raider was heavily shielded and armed with weapons that could cripple the Vigilant Mercy if brought to bear effectively. Its captain seemed content to continue looting the transport, while his escorts dealt with the rescue operation, but that could change quickly. Still, she called out, I need a weakness analysis on the lead ship. There has to be something we can exploit. The arachnoid's appendages worked furiously across her console. Scanning now, Commander. The vessel appears to be a modified battlecruiser heavily armed and armored. Wait. I'm detecting an anomaly in their shield grid. The aft ventral section shows reduced coverage, possibly due to battle damage. Can we exploit it? Affirmative, but only with a precisely coordinated strike. The window would be very narrow. Mara studied the tactical situation. The lead ship was positioned between the Vigilant Mercy and the transport, using the civilian vessel as partial cover. Any attack would have to come from an unexpected angle, threading the needle between friendly and enemy positions. Kraw, she said, making her decision. I need you to coordinate a three-pronged assault. Gamma team will approach from the dorsal side while our main batteries target their shield generator. At the same moment, I want you to take a shuttle and hit their weak spot from below. The Cathaxian's head snapped around to stare at her. You want me to fly a shuttle mission? I want you to do what you do best, but as part of a coordinated plan. Can you handle that? For a moment, Kraw's predatory instincts warred with his military training. Then he nodded slowly. I understand, Commander. When do we begin? Now, all teams execute on my mark. The next 30 seconds would determine the outcome of the entire engagement. Mara watched the tactical display as the various elements of her plan moved into position. Gamma Team's boarding shuttle accelerated toward the Zethian battlecruiser's upper hull, while Kraw's smaller craft dove toward its vulnerable underside. The Vigilant Mercy's main batteries swiveled to target the enemy ship's shield generator. Mark, Mara called out. Space erupted in coordinated violence. The cruiser's energy beams struck the battlecruiser's shields, just as Gamma Team's shuttle fired its breaching charges. At the same instant, Kraw's craft delivered a precisely targeted torpedo strike to the weakened shield section. The combined assault overloaded the Zethian defensive grid, creating gaps that the boarding teams could exploit. Shield penetration achieved, still reported. Both boarding teams are on target. But even as victory seemed within reach, the tactical situation began to deteriorate. The Zethian escorts had regrouped and were closing on the Vigilant Mercy's position. More concerning long-range sensors were detecting additional contacts jumping in from hyperspace. Commander Still's voice carried new urgency. Multiple hyperspace translations detected. Configuration unknown, but sensor ghosts suggest significant tonnage. The tactical display updated to show 3 new contacts materializing at the edge of sensor range. Even at this distance, their size was evident. These weren't raiders or pirates. They were capital ships. Zethian reinforcements, Mara asked. Negative. The energy signatures are different. Unknown configuration, but they're big. Estimated tonnage suggests battleship class or larger. Mara felt her blood run cold. If those were enemy reinforcements, the Vigilant Mercy was hopelessly outgunned. Her rescue mission had just become a potential death trap. Still, I need identification on those contacts. Are they hostile? Working on it, Commander. The range is extreme, but... Wait. I'm receiving a transmission. The bridge speakers crackled to life with an electronic voice, speaking heavily accented standard. Attention, United Sector vessel. This is Fleet Admiral Thex of the Consortium Navy. We have monitored your engagement with Zethian raiders and are prepared to assist. Mara blinked in surprise. The Hegemony Consortium was a loose alliance of non-aligned worlds that maintained uneasy neutrality with both the United Sector and various hostile powers. Their intervention here was unexpected, to say the least. Admiral Thex, this is Commander Reyes of the USS Vigilant Mercy. We appreciate your offer of assistance, but this situation is under control. Respectfully, Commander, our sensor readings suggest otherwise. You are engaged with superior forces while attempting a rescue operation. Pride is a luxury you cannot afford. Before Mara could respond, her tactical situation changed dramatically. The Zethian escorts had finally coordinated their assault, and energy beams were hammering the Vigilant Mercy's shields. Chief Grix's voice echoed across the bridge as power fluctuations rippled through the ship's systems. Shields down to 40%. We can't take much more of this pounding. Where are our boarding teams? Mara asked. Gamma Team has secured the battlecruiser's bridge, Still reported. Alpha and Beta teams are still fighting aboard the transport. Casualties are mounting. And that's when the trap revealed itself. Commander. Still's voice cracked with alarm. I'm detecting a massive gravity distortion forming around the neutron star. The Zethians have activated some kind of minefield. On the tactical display space itself seemed to writhe as invisible forces pulled at the fabric of reality. The neutron star, previously a distant navigational hazard, had become the center of a carefully planned ambush. Gravity mines nearly undetectable until activation were creating distortion fields that would tear apart any ship caught within their influence. It's a trap, Mara breathed. They lured us here deliberately. The crippled transport, the seemingly uncoordinated raider attack, even the timing of the consortium fleet's arrival, it had all been orchestrated. The Zethians had used her own compassion against her, turning a rescue mission into an elaborate snare. "All boarding teams emergency extraction," she ordered. "Get our people out of there now." But it was too late. The gravity fields were already affecting the smaller craft. Kra's shuttle was caught in the outer edge of the distortion, its hull groaning under forces that no ship was designed to withstand. "Kra, report," Mara called out. The Cathaxian's voice came through heavy with static. "Hull integrity compromised. I can't break free of the gravity well." "Can you eject?" "Negative. The field is too strong." "Commander." His voice trailed off for a moment. "I was wrong about human tactics. Your plan was sound. I should have trusted you from the beginning." Mara stared at the tactical display, watching the icon representing Kra's shuttle being pulled inexorably toward the neutron star. Every instinct screamed at her to order an immediate rescue attempt, but logic demanded otherwise. Any ship that entered the minefield would share his fate. "Still," she said quietly. "Can we target the gravity mine generators?" "They're positioned around the neutron star itself. We'd have to get within the field perimeter to engage them effectively." "What about the consortium fleet?" "Still too far out. Even at maximum acceleration, they won't reach us for another 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Kra would be dead in 5. Mara closed her eyes for a moment, running through every tactical scenario she could imagine. Then she opened them and made her decision. "All power to engines, we're going in." "Commander," Chief Grix's voice carried alarm. "The gravity fields will tear us apart." "Not if we're fast enough. Still, I need a precise course plot. Thread us through the weakest part of the field and get us close enough to target those generators." "That's impossible. The field strength variations are too unpredictable." "Then we make our own luck," Mara replied. "All hands prepare for extreme maneuvering. We're going to save our XO and shut down this minefield." The Vigilant Mercy turned toward the neutron star, her engines flaring to maximum output. Behind them, the Zethian escorts gave chase their weapons, continuing to hammer the cruiser's failing shields. Ahead lay a maze of gravity distortions that could crush their ship like an empty beverage container. Entering the minefield perimeter, Satil reported. Gravity shear detected along the port side. The ship groaned as invisible forces pulled at her hull. In engineering, Chief Grix fought to maintain structural integrity, while the artificial gravity systems struggled to compensate for the external fields. On the tactical display, Kra's shuttle appeared as a flickering icon, its systems failing under the relentless pressure. "Commander," Kra's voice was barely audible through the static. "Don't risk the ship for me. Complete the mission." "Negative," Mara replied. "We don't leave anyone behind." She was studying the tactical plot when inspiration struck. The gravity mines were positioned in a careful pattern around the neutron star, creating overlapping fields of lethal force. But like any weapon system, they had to have a central control mechanism. If she could locate the generator. Still scan for artificial structures near the neutron star's equatorial plane. The Zethians must have a control platform somewhere. Scanning now. The gravity distortions are interfering with sensors, but yes, I'm detecting a small station maintaining position at the edge of the star's magnetosphere. That's our target. How close do we need to get for a torpedo strike? Given the gravity shear, we'd need to be within 5,000 kilometers for an accurate shot. 5,000 kilometers from a neutron star while navigating a gravity minefield. Under any normal circumstances, it would be suicide. But these weren't normal circumstances. Plot a course. Emergency power to shields and structural integrity. The next few minutes were the longest of Mara's career. The Vigilant Mercy danced through the gravity field like a leaf in a hurricane, her hull flexing and twisting under forces that stretched the limits of her design. Twice, sudden field variations nearly tore them apart. Once, a pursuing Zethian escort wasn't so lucky, its hull cracking open like an egg as it was caught between two overlapping distortions. 4,000 kilometers to target, Still called out. Torpedo lock achieved. "Fire all tubes," Mara ordered. 6 torpedoes streaked away from the cruiser, their warheads programmed for maximum yield. They struck the control station in rapid succession, each explosion adding to the growing fireball that marked the platform's destruction. Almost immediately, the gravity fields began to destabilize. Field collapse detected, still reported. The mines are shutting down. Get us to Kraw's position. Emergency medical team to the shuttle bay. The rescue took precious minutes that Mara begrudged every second of. When they finally retrieved Kraw's battered shuttle, the Cathaxian was unconscious and bleeding from multiple lacerations. But he was alive. Medical team reports Exo Kraw is stable, came the voice from sickbay. Dr. Uvla is treating him for severe trauma and radiation exposure, but his prognosis is good. Mara allowed herself a moment of relief before turning back to the tactical situation. The immediate threat was over, but they still had to deal with the remaining Zithian raiders and secure the civilian transport. Status of the boarding teams. Alpha and Beta teams have successfully secured the transport, Lieutenant Torres reported. All Zithian boarders have been neutralized. We have approximately 180 survivors in need of medical attention. And the Zithian ships. The escorts are withdrawing. Without the minefield, they're outnumbered and outgunned. Mara nodded, watching the tactical display as the enemy vessels retreated into hyperspace. The immediate crisis was over, but she knew there would be consequences. She had disobeyed direct orders to mount a rescue operation, and while it had been successful, Command would not be pleased. 3 hours later, Mara stood in the ship's medical bay, watching Dr. Uvla tend to the wounded. The silicanoid physician moved with careful precision, her crystalline appendages manipulating surgical instruments with microscopic accuracy. Kraw lay on the primary biobed, his massive form dwarfing the medical equipment designed for smaller species. "How is he, Doctor?" Mara asked. "He will recover fully," Uvla replied, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones common to her species. The radiation exposure was significant, but Cathaxian physiology is remarkably resilient. He should be conscious within the hour. And the civilian casualties? 12 dead, 37 injured. It could have been much worse if you had not acted quickly. Mara nodded, though the deaths weighed heavily on her conscience. 12 people who might still be alive if she had followed procedure and waited for reinforcements. But 200 others who would certainly be dead or enslaved if she had done nothing. "Commander," Uvla continued, "if I may speak frankly. Of course. What you did today was necessary. Sometimes the greater good requires us to act against our immediate orders. Your XO understands this now." As if summoned by their conversation, Kraw's eyes fluttered open. The Cathaxian's yellow gaze found Mara immediately, and he attempted to sit up before Dr. Uvla's firm appendage pressed him back down. "Rest, you oversized predator," the physician commanded. "Your body needs time to heal." "Commander," Kraw's voice was hoarse but strong. "The mission." "Successful," Mara replied. "The minefield is down, the raiders are gone, and the civilians are safe. You did good work out there, XO." "I nearly got myself killed because I couldn't follow your orders properly," Kraw rumbled. "If I had trusted your tactical plan from the beginning—" "You adapted when it mattered," Mara interrupted. "That's what good officers do." Dr. Uvla's examination was interrupted by the intercom crackling to life. "Commander Reyes to the bridge. Priority communication from Sector Command." Mara sighed. The reckoning had come sooner than expected. "I have to go. Rest up, Kraw. We'll probably both need to explain ourselves to Admiral Morrison." The walk to the bridge seemed longer than usual. Mara knew that her career was likely over. Disobeying direct orders, no matter how noble the motivation was, a court-martial offense. But as she passed through the corridors filled with rescued civilians, she found she couldn't regret her decision. Admiral Morrison's holographic image dominated the bridge's main display when she arrived. The elderly human's weathered face was set in its customary stern expression, but Mara thought she detected something else in his gray eyes. Perhaps approval. Perhaps simply resignation. "Commander Reyes," the Admiral began without preamble. "You were ordered to maintain patrol perimeter pending reinforcement. Instead, You engaged superior enemy forces in an unauthorized rescue operation. Do you have an explanation for this breach of protocol? Yes, sir. I determined that immediate action was necessary to prevent civilian casualties. My assessment of the tactical situation indicated that waiting for reinforcements would result in the loss of all personnel aboard the transport vessel. And the gravity minefield? An unexpected development, sir. The Zithians appear to have been using the civilian vessel as bait for a larger ambush. We were fortunate to escape with minimal casualties. Admiral Morrison was quiet for a long moment, his image flickering slightly, due to the long-range transmission delay. When he spoke again, his voice carried a hint of what might have been pride. Commander, your tactical report makes interesting reading. A coordinated assault using mixed-species boarding teams, precision weapons fire, and adaptive maneuvering through a gravity field that should have torn your ship apart. Most fascinating is your XO's behavior. Mara felt a chill run down her spine. Sir, according to your tactical logs, Executive Officer Craw requested permission to coordinate boarding operations rather than leading a solo assault. For a Cathaxian apex predator, that represents a significant behavioral modification. Would you care to explain? XO Craw demonstrated exceptional tactical flexibility and commitment to coordinated operations, Mara replied carefully. His contributions were vital to the mission's success. Indeed. Commander, you and your crew have stumbled onto something significant. For 3 centuries, we've struggled with command hierarchies involving apex predator species. The assumption has always been that their hunting instincts make them unsuitable for coordinated tactics. Your mission suggests otherwise. The Admiral's image shifted as he consulted something off-screen. I'm assigning a tactical analysis team to study your engagement in detail. If your methods can be replicated across the fleet, it could revolutionize our approach to mixed-species operations. Sir, Mara wasn't sure she had heard correctly. You're not being court-martialed, Commander. You're being commended. The civilian lives you saved, the intelligence data you recovered from the Zithian ships, and the tactical innovations you demonstrated far outweigh any procedural violations. Relief flooded through Mara, followed immediately by professional curiosity. The intelligence data, sir. Ah, yes. The materials you recovered indicate a major Zithian offensive is being planned against 3 separate United Sector systems. Without that warning, we could have lost millions of civilians. Your unauthorized mission may have prevented a massacre. When the transmission ended, Mara found herself alone on the bridge with her thoughts. The rescue mission that had started as a simple moral choice had evolved into something much larger. The implications of Craw's behavioral change, the tactical innovations they had stumbled upon, and the intelligence windfall all pointed toward significant changes ahead. 2 days later, the Vigilant Mercy docked at Starbase 7 for resupply and crew rotation. Mara stood in the observation lounge watching the organized chaos of a major fleet installation through the transparent aluminum windows. Ships of dozens of different configurations moved through the traffic patterns, their crews representing the full diversity of United Sector membership. The medical teams say you'll be cleared for full duty tomorrow, she said, without turning around. Craw's reflection appeared in the window beside her, his massive form making her seem almost fragile by comparison. Dr. Uvla is thorough, he replied. Perhaps overly so. She saved your life. You saved my life. I should have trusted your judgment from the beginning. Mara turned to face her XO. The Cathaxian looked different somehow, though she couldn't quite identify what had changed. Perhaps it was simply a new awareness in his yellow eyes, an acknowledgement of possibilities he hadn't considered before. You did trust my judgment, she said. When it mattered most, you followed orders, even when your instincts screamed otherwise. That took courage. Cathaxian courage is simple, Craw rumbled. We face death without fear, because we were bred for it. What you did required a different kind of courage. You risked your career, your ship, and your crew for the lives of strangers. That is admirable. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the flow of traffic outside. Finally, Mara spoke again. The tactical analysis team wants to interview you next week. They're particularly interested in your decision-making process during the boarding operations. And what will I tell them? The truth. That apex predators can learn to work as part of a team without losing their effectiveness. That strategy and instinct aren't mutually exclusive. Kra's claws extended slightly, a gesture Mara had learned to interpret as thoughtful consideration rather than aggression. The truth is that I have never served under a commander worthy of respect until now. Perhaps that made the difference. Or perhaps you were ready to learn something new. Perhaps. Kra paused, then continued with what might have been amusement in his voice. The crew has taken to calling our engagement the Neutron Star Gambit. I believe you are becoming something of a legend, Commander. Mara shook her head. Legends are for history books. I'm more interested in the future. And what does the future hold? Changes. The Admiral mentioned new doctrine being developed, based on our tactical innovations. Mixed species crews with integrated command structures. Apex predators working alongside strategic thinkers, instead of dominating through pure aggression. A partnership of strengths, rather than a hierarchy of dominance, Kra mused. It is an intriguing concept. More than intriguing. It's necessary. The galaxy is getting more dangerous, and we can't afford to waste any advantages. Your instincts combined with human strategy, arachnoid sensor analysis, siliconoid technical expertise. Together, we're stronger than any single species alone. Kra nodded slowly. I pledge my personal loyalty to you, Commander, not just as a member of your crew, but as a warrior who has found a leader worthy of following. The formal declaration carried weight in Cathaxian culture that Mara was still learning to appreciate. It meant that Kra would follow her into battle without question, trusting her judgment, even when it conflicted with his predatory instincts. I accept your loyalty, XO, and I pledge to be worthy of it. As they watched the stars beyond the starbase, Mara reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. A routine patrol had become a rescue mission, then a tactical innovation, and finally, a fundamental shift in military doctrine. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but for the first time in her career, she felt truly optimistic about humanity's place among the stars. The first thing the apex predator had done in combat was run to the human for orders. It was a simple action that would echo through military academies and tactical manuals for generations to come. But for Mara and Kra, it was just the beginning of a partnership that would redefine what it meant to serve together in the endless dark of space. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges that would test their new understanding of cooperation and trust. But as Mara stood beside her Cathaxian XO, watching the flow of ships carrying the hopes and dreams of countless civilizations, she knew they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they would face the darkness and emerge victorious, not through the dominance of any single species, but through the strength that came from unity in diversity. The stars beckoned, and the crew of the Vigilant Mercy was ready to answer their call.